Masked Hero.
Hello everybody, and welcome to the first or second video of the year for me, depending on how committed I am to editing a different piece of content. But today we are here to talk about the scenarios of 2025. I had already put in my thoughts as to what I felt about everything that happened this year, but I'll say that The Winning Hand put out an episode that reflected back on the year. I didn't watch all of it, but I definitely watched chunks of it. And then the Stunned and Confused podcast also did an entire episode that I had opinions on because I was already thinking about this topic for this video. Don't agree with everything that they came to the conclusion of, although a lot of it was community sourced. So that gave me an idea of where the community is coming from on some of the stuff. Go listen to it, but let's not waste any more time. We're here to talk about all the scenarios of the year. That includes the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the Trickster Takeover scenario pack, and unfortunately I will not be talking about the Civil War leaders. I wholeheartedly was very surprised and happy with what we got. And what I will say is that the modular encounter sets have definitely come in to help to create something a little bit more creative, or not creative, a little bit more thematic. I have not played against every one of the leaders, so I don't want to give you any kind of idea of that. That will probably be a separate video. That may be a month or two from now when I can really sit down and play against them. So we'll not be talking about that stuff, but I hopefully will get to touch with base with that before we move into Fear No Evil content. But we have wasted enough time. Let's talk about, first we'll talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We'll get into Trickster Takedown. So let's start the year by looking at Black Widow. And I really found Black Widow to be an interesting scenario. I think that her mechanic of when you attack her, you remove a threat from the main scheme and discard the top card of the encounter deck to resolve each preparation ability on that card. Right off the bat seems really daunting. Once you understand what you're supposed to do and you understand the logistics of everything, it's actually a pretty simple scenario to kind of grok and understand. And my only real hang up with it is just someone like Falcon can very much game the system. You know exactly what's on top. You know if it's a preparation. You know if it's a preparation you can handle. Is it going to negate all the damage? But besides that, because the heroes have ways of negating everything that a scenario does all the time, there are just certain situations where I feel like there is a boon, because like aggression has a way to get rid of threat on the main scheme. You just make attacks, and that is actually really great. You have the ability to mitigate the threat on the main scheme without needing to be injustice exclusively. This is a mechanic that I don't want to see repeated, but if they wanted to do another spin on this, I would not have a problem with that. And this could just be me because I'm not a perfect player, but like protection felt like a solo protection against Black Widow didn't feel as rewarding as like aggression was. Like, because aggression I could feel like, oh, I'm making attacks, but those attacks are actually like making progress. And I suppose if you have a protection player who has events that have attacks on them, then you are kind of taking a piece of that pie. But protection didn't feel great. Leadership did feel like I was just going through the deck really fast. Like I was hitting preparation after preparation after preparation. So the threat was always low, but I was always having to put out a bunch of fires. Justice always felt good. You almost, at some point, you just hit a point where you no longer have to worry about it because there's no threat on the main scheme to make this forced interrupt matter. And that is balance. All these things are, quite honestly, are nitpicks, because at the end of the day, what I liked about Black Widow was that she enabled any aspect at any player count to feel like you were contributing to what was going on. And I think that is great. I think that just the ability to go, hey, I'm not the most perfect player, but what I'm doing is somehow contributing. Now, are you pushing us towards acceleration icons? Potentially. But at the same time, I felt like I wouldn't have this be somebody's first game. But if you've played through Rhino, maybe you played through Claw, Black Widow is not going to seem too extreme. She's going to actually probably seem very easy. I mean, she's the first villain of the scenario she's the first scenario of the box, so that's very possible. I think that there are some, when revealed, shenanigans. Like when you go to stage 2, you get 2 threat per player on the main scheme. When you go to stage 3, you get 3 threat per player on the main scheme. That can be a little difficult because you think you're good and then you just kind of lose out of nowhere. That can burn. I definitely got hit by that once or twice. Luckily, I play enough Marvel Champions that it didn't deter me. But that's definitely something that when you don't know what's coming, it just ends the game. And you're like, oh, I thought we were good, but as it turns out, we weren't. And there's only, I guess she has, oh no, I was going to say only. She has 10 threat per player to complete the scheme. So there's a lot of wiggle room to get around that. But I'll certainly say I have lost more than once to the flip over to the next stage, get a bunch of threat stuff. And obviously that's on me. Not preparing correctly. I'm not somebody that memorizes what happens to metagame to go, okay, I know that when you flip this over, this happens. If you're going from stage 2 to stage 3, you have a visual reminder on stage 2 that this is going to happen. So kind of the same thing happens with Risky Business. You also have the chance to just lose out of nowhere. At the end of the day, besides just like her equipment making it a little bit more difficult to do stuff, she has cool thematics. Her cards share the same name as cards from the Black Widow Hero Pack. I love when they do that. And overall, I would say that it's not my favorite scenario of the year. I definitely have a scenario of the year in mind, but it's definitely one where I was very happy. I think almost initially when the box came out, I had the design of Black Widow in a list video, so it definitely made an impression on me that I enjoyed. Moving on to Batroc, I think this is a fun scenario, and I don't want to ever take the amount of attempts it took me to win as some kind of mark of whether it's a good or bad scenario. I think I played this 4 times before I defeated it. And some of that just because this and the next scenario we're going to talk about, MODOK, I feel like both have a lot of spinning plates, and that's fine. It's just you sort of have to be in the right mental space to kind of do that in a night. And if you're just showing up, like if you don't know this scenario, you show up, somebody says, hey, I've got Batroc, do you want to try that? And you're just like, sure. I mean, I've only really experienced the core set and Age of Apocalypse, so you don't have a lot of your footing under you. This can be a scenario that I feel like has so many spinning plates that you find yourself suddenly being like, I don't even know what to do. And additionally, the rescued captives mechanic, where you can what is it? You do the main scheme over and over again, I think it is. When the last throw would be removed from this, advance to stage 2, the player's winning by advancing. So yeah, you want to advance through everything. I believe there was one where, okay, yeah, going from locate missing persons to B and advancing is a potential. You don't have to do that. And I think that's a really interesting design. I like that. Don't skim on that, Fantasy Flight. But I will say that judging how many captives should I save before advancing, because I need to get out of this scenario with at least 1 alive, it's like, okay, do I feel like I'm built up enough to really kind of like work my way through this? And I think that was always a lesson that I don't even know that I've learned completely up to this point, but was definitely something that I needed to keep in mind. Was, okay, I have 1 captive, I have 2 captives. Is that going to be enough? And I don't remember, do they not, they don't count against your ally limit. So yeah, you're not concerned about the rescued captives, like making it so you can't take out any more allies. But yeah, just at the end of the day, this is not a bad scenario. I think that it's probably middle of the road. It's not like a 1 out of 5 or a 2 out of 5. It's maybe a 3 or 4 out of 5 stars for me scenario. I enjoy it. It's just not one that I will actively choose to do unless I'm kind of like in the mood for it, or if I'm just doing an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. box run. I've certainly done a couple of those. This is a great box to do that in, by the way. But it's just not something that I've fallen in love with this scenario. Like I've fallen in love with some of the other scenarios. But at the end of the day, I definitely see the merit in it. I do enjoy playing it. It's just, like I said, you got to be in the right headspace. I don't always feel, at my age now, being in my late 30s, sometimes I don't want to sit down for a game night, or sometimes I don't want to sit down for a recording to do a bunch of plate spinning. And so that's my only real detraction on Batroc. Hello, if you are enjoying this content, if this happens to be the third video of mine you've watched today, I would really love a subscription. It goes a long ways. Additionally, if you have discretionary spending, this is not required, but I do have members opened up. I want to make members only content. The demand's just not there yet, but they do get to see the videos as soon as they are live. That can be 24 hours notice, that can be a week and a half's notice, but you get that content right away. Any form of encouragement, any form of support is definitely appreciated. I won't take up any more of your time. Moving on to MODOK. I don't know that I was prepared for how much fun this can be. It is entirely possible that as you go through the different holding cells and take on the different Inhumans that you're saving, that it can get out of hand. You lose one of those allies, and I believe they just go right back into the holding cell. You lose one of them, yeah, you flip it back over and put it into the cell deck. So yeah, if you let this slip, or you just get a bad sequence of them, because what is it? Is it Sarah Garza? Yeah, Sarah Garza, if I remember correctly, does not contradict your ammo limit, has overkill in range. Is that the one that I'm thinking of? I mean, all of them are good. I do feel like the Sarah Garza ally is just so strong that if you get that as your first or second, you can just push through this. I love the fact that by defeating MODOK, you can advance what you're doing. Again, like Black Widow, I appreciate that this box is designed in a way where you can achieve your goals in multiple ways. It's not aspect dependent. It's not keep the threat down and find a way to deal some damage. It's like, if you are really good at defeating MODOK, just do that. And yeah, I think overall, this is a really fun scenario. It probably is a 3 or 4 stars. I would rank it above Batroc. I like it more than Batroc. I'm willing to play it all the time. And it definitely has its issues. It definitely has its stumbling blocks that, you know, sometimes like you just get a Adaptoid and suddenly it's got so many environments that it's just really out of hand. And but I don't see a problem with tough minions or difficult minions, because tough is a loaded phrase in this game. I'm not opposed to minions that are difficult to deal with, but I will say that sometimes an Adaptoid drops down at a moment when defeating one is not going to be the most helpful thing, and suddenly it's just like, oh, we had this and now we're just done. And that's not the worst feeling, because this game isn't always about winning. Quite honestly, I've reached a point where I do win a lot, and maybe I should move away from standard to some extent, although I do just kind of love the casual feeling of sitting down and playing standard. This one gets me enough, but it gets me in a way where it's just like, you know what? I earned that loss, and I would much rather feel like when I play Marvel Champions that I've earned my victories and I've earned my losses than that was way too easy or this was ridiculous. But MODOK is not one of those scenarios. If I win, I win, and if I lose, I'm like, yeah, you got me. You had me. I thought I was winning, and you just got me. And kudos to you, MODOK. But yeah, overall, I have high hopes for more designs like MODOK, because I really enjoyed MODOK. Next up, let's talk about a controversial scenario. Citizen V and the Thunderbolts. This is a top 10, maybe top 5 in all of Marvel Champions scenario for me. I love this. And I think what I love about it is just how modular it is. The fact that we had a whole bunch of modular sets to play with. And I realize that there's a certain amount of privilege to this. I have the privilege of owning everything. I have the privilege of buying Winter Soldier and Falcon, Silk, and Black Panther all at the same time. So you get those minion packs in the back. And so I do have that privilege. Being able to say, hey, I have 9 different Thunderbolts that I could be using in this scenario to fill in these little gaps, and just the way that it works. To some extent, once you've solved the problem, I do think that you can look at the Thunderbolts, the environment, Justice Like Lightning, or Thunderbolts Backup, whichever. you could find a way to maybe take that text and just make it a little bit more difficult. Obviously, if you're playing an expert, that's already right there. They heal up additionally, and I think they get a tough status card. I find this scenario to be infinitely replayable. I love being able to go, okay, this time I'm playing with Atlas and Joystick. This time I'm playing with Blizzard and Fixer. You know what? I think I want to get Mockingbird. Is it Mockingbird? I don't remember. Songbird and Moonstone. Yeah, sorry, I was mixing them together. No, I don't even know I was mixing them together, but Mockingbird is the hero. Just being able to have Moonstone in there with Atlas, or bring in Batroc, bring in Radioactive Man. Like I just find this scenario to be so much fun. And it's fun in a way that I feel like is approachable. I feel like somebody can come in and play it, and it's just like, okay, listen, this thing's going to be moving around a lot. But if we just focus in, and you get people that want to get engaged, they want to engage minions. And I love it, and it is my favorite scenario of the year. And just, I feel like because it's so flexible, I don't even know the math on this, like how many different variations you could do this. You play in solo, you need to have 2 different Thunderbolt modulars in here. You play in 4-player, you need to have 5 different modulars in here. Like, what does that look like? And then there's the turn with something you're taking down Citizen V. And yeah, just overall, I just love this scenario. I think it's so much fun, and I think that it is a great accomplishment by the designers. Nothing I would change about it, because I do think that there are valves you can turn. I do think that there are different things you can do. At the end of the day, I think this is a perfect scenario, and I love what they did with it. Next up, we have, to cap off the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. box, we have Baron Zemo. Honestly, I feel like this scenario can just go burn in a fire. This might be my least or second to last end of the box scenario. This just does not jive with me. It has what I think is, granted, there are people that play the campaigns. I don't care for the campaigns. So the campaign mechanics are all just going to be fluid into this. But if you are just setting the scenario up and you're trying to set up the 2 different folders, there's not a lot to it. It's just, I feel like I spend more time setting it up, figuring out the accusations, and just trying to deal with that mechanic than I do actually playing the game. Because you can blow through Baron Zemo, you can do whatever. I don't even remember the mechanics necessarily to get your clues for the boardroom mechanic. I don't have fun. It just isn't fun for me. And that doesn't mean that it's like a bad scenario that you shouldn't play it. Similar to the criticisms of Loki with the Infinity Gauntlet. If there was a way to just remove that piece, but the thing is, the Infinity Gauntlet is intrinsic to Loki. The boardroom is intrinsic to Baron Zemo. It's just, if you could pluck those out and just make a scenario that didn't have those things, this scenario would be worse for the wearer. It would not be a fun. It would lose its mechanic. That, like, it's so intertwined into what you're doing there. So it just turns into a scenario where it's like, I just choose not to play it. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer. I don't want to be making anyone feel like they're bad for playing it or choosing to play it. If other people want to play it, I'll play it with them. I want to play this game that I love with people. I will not choose to play this scenario. It is my least favorite scenario of the year. That is saying something, because I've enjoyed everything in here. The only really other nitpick is coming up as we talk about Trickster Takeover. There is one of the 2 scenarios there that I don't love, but I don't enjoy this. I understand why people do. I don't enjoy it. And so, unfortunately, it is my least favorite and least explored scenario of 2025. Next up, we have Enchantress out of the Trickster Takeover scenario pack. And I think that this is a really fun scenario. I do think that the Defiant and Enthralled mechanic, using the enchantment cards, I did think that is a little heavy-handed, and it's a little rough that basically, like, there's nothing you can do about it. It will happen to you eventually. It does reward speeding through the scenario, and so I guess you sort of like miss out on a little bit of the mechanics of the thing. That said, like, what you get on the other side with the forced actions are fun. They don't seem unfair. It just becomes a little bit of like, how are we going to balance everything going on and include this like disadvantage that's being thrown at you. That said, I don't hate this. I think this is a really fun scenario. It definitely ranks in the middle. This might I would say this is kind of neck and neck with Batroc for me. It's not a scenario that I will necessarily just jump to play, but I think that it's out of a scenario pack that's definitely worth it. Has a lot of fun stuff to go and do as you're playing it. I feel like Spell Blast was a treachery that definitely surprised me and was more difficult than I was expecting. I do enjoy that this scenario pack comes with the minions that then link to allies that join your team, like these enthralled allies. I think those are the enthralled minions. Overall, I find that to be so much fun. I find it to be very economical, very fun, and definitely something to keep in mind. I feel like there's just enough plate spinning going on, and I guess I sort of skipped over this. I do think that there is not as much plate spinning in MODOK, but I definitely kind of skipped over the fact that I think there's some plate spinning there. I think there is some plate spinning here that just you lose track of something and suddenly you find yourself like in the position to lose, but it doesn't feel that punishing. So overall, I find this to be a really fun scenario that I'm kind of tentative on how often I'll play it in the future, but I did like it, and overall I would say, go and pick this up, because you also get the Loki God of Lies scenario. And for the most part, I think this entire scenario pack is good. Loki himself is maybe, well, it's not maybe, it is my second lowest scenario of the year, but not with as much vitriol. I was rating everything out of 5, really maybe out of like a 10. Grading scale would be more accurate. Like Baron Zemo is just the lowest of the low for me, so like 1 out of 10, whereas like Loki is more of like a 4 or 5 out of 10 when you throw in that gradient, and then everything else starts to be like 7s and 8s. Like I guess maybe like Batroc might be like a 6 or something. Like Loki is not a bad scenario. I just find what's going on is kind of akin to risky business. You just grind until you get into a position where you can just nuke the villain as quickly as possible. I think the multiple different versions of Loki that you can fight is fun. I do think that it feels a little too much like the end of Mad Titan Shadow, where you're just fighting a bunch of different Lokis. I don't hate it, but I kind of wish maybe we could play with a different mechanical identity for Loki, and that he wasn't so connected to just like multiple versions of himself. I get where that comes from. I can see what they're drawing that from. It's just I could also go for a different mechanical identity that Loki's not now beholden to. If we see a Loki 3, he's probably going to have multiple versions of him. I don't know. I don't need that. But at the end of the day, this is a fun scenario. I do think that it can be solved. I think that if you just play it in the right way, the wind kind of comes out of your sails, or you find yourself in the opposite position where you do the shatter stuff, and then suddenly you find yourself in a position where you sort of needed to do one more round of shattering to beat him, and suddenly it's like, oh, we need to scramble. We need to do this little side quest to get us into a position. Then we need to defeat this variant to then throw the damage at the main villain of everything to do that. Like, unfortunately, that convoluted nature, especially because like I'm talking about this from the perspective of like you're playing the one table version, and I can certainly do like a solo game of this. I still want to do a solo game of Thor versus Loki. That's been on the back burner for months. I want to do that, and hopefully I will do a video of that in the next couple of months. But I will say the multiplayer version of this, which I did have the pleasure of playing, that's really fun. When you have multiple tables going on, that's really fun. It's just when you're working at the one table version, it just does not have the draw that has made it so that it's a scenario that I've played more than 3 or 4 times. Have I played this? It just doesn't have the appeal to me to return to. I would much rather play Enchantress over Loki. I think maybe it's like there are plates to spin, but it feels like I'm making more progress, and I have a better idea of where I'm at. Like, having now gone to multiple Con of Heroes and doing Con in Yellow, I will say the mass multiplayer stuff is fun, but they all to some extent have a certain bit of I don't know where we are, because everything is so dependent on these very large numbers going on in the room. So I actually don't know how well we're doing. We just need to stay alive and hope that the min-maxers somewhere in the convention hall will just deal like 47 damage to Carnage, and we can just be done with this. So yeah, overall, I think that this is a scenario that is much better in multiplayer. The time I played it in multiplayer, you still have that sense of like, okay, we have 4 tables. I sort of don't know where we are in the progress bar. Are we in the first 20%? Like, where are we? Are we 20% done? Are we 40% done? Are we 75% done? Are we 90% done? Like, you do, that becomes a little bit more ephemeral, but for the most part, it all works in such a way that it's like, yeah, that was fun. Yeah, overall, I think this was a really good year. I loved Thunderbolts. I did not like Baron Zemo. That's kind of the 2 big takeaways. Everything else is good for me. I think that I can see the merit of Black Widow. I can see what they were trying to do, and to some extent I did enjoy Batroc. I think MODOK has risen up for me over the course of the year. Thunderbolts, like, I finished that first game and I was like, oh, I want to do more of this. Baron Zemo did not impress me. Enchantress is tough, but I think fair. Not the same tough and fair as MODOK, but definitely tough but fair. And Loki is fun, but I think really is the best in a multiplayer setting. And then the leaders, like Iron Man is fun, but other than that, I haven't played more than shuffling up the other leaders. I haven't actually played against any of them. So like I said, that'll be a separate video. We'll talk about that on a different day. But what did you think of this last year? What was your favorite scenario? What was your least favorite scenario? Let me know in the comments. But until next time, thank you so much for your time. Have a great day, and remember, you're doing great. Keep it up.